The news never stops.
In our other main news this afternoon, there has been cross-party criticism of the government's plans for all UK citizens to have a mandatory digital ID. The passes will be stored on a phone app and required to prove someone's right to work here legally. Sir Keir Starmer argues it's needed to make the country's borders more secure. Joining us now live on LBC News is James Baker, Platform Power and Free Expression Programme Manager at the Open Rights Group. James, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, Charlotte. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. Good to have you. What is your reaction then to these proposals?
Sure. Well, firstly, surprised, because we knew over the summer the Home Affairs Select Committee was going to be looking at this, and like many civil society groups, we submitted evidence to that committee. And before it's even had a chance to meet or look at the evidence around this issue, Starmer's rushed off and announced a compulsory ID scheme, and we're very sceptical of it.
What I was saying to some of my colleagues is that we've got our passports, we've got our driver's licences.
Yeah.
There's numerous other databases, God knows where, on the internet. I've lost count of the amount of sites, unfortunately, that have my data. But unfortunately, I think we just accept now that it is the way it is. So what is the problem with just one more app having our data?
Sure. Well, on this, I mean, it's not just going to be the app and the data on your phone, is it? It's going to be the database that runs behind that, which the government has control over. And, you know, the point is, we've already got ID, we've already got right to work checks, we've already got even e-visas, digital ID for migrants. And there's been real problems with those e-visa schemes. But actually what happens with this, it risks becoming essentially a passport to everyday life. You need that app before you can get out there and work or rent. And if you don't have it, or if you have a problem with it, your life suddenly gets more difficult and you have a barrier to that. And the other problem is with the Data Use and Access Act that the government's passed, they've actually watered down data protections in the UK compared to what we used to have when we're in the EU under GDPR. So all the data now that could be collected for this digital ID could be pulled together from different government sources. They could get your photograph off your passport. They could get your, possibly your medical records, possibly, other data, pull it all together. Then once they've got that, they can also then start analysing it with AI. We've already seen them start to use AI to look at your social media profiles, to compare that with your HMRC tax returns. So it really becomes a lot more about surveillance and profiling the population. And what we see time and time again with these systems, once they're in place, they expand and expand. The next government comes along and has more ideas for it. And we get increasing amounts of surveillance and a society of, that kind of surveillance AI-led control.
Do you see the government's argument at all that it would help prove a person's right to live and work in the UK? Because at the moment, what they're saying is part of the draw for illegal migration and illegal working is that a lot of businesses at the moment are not actually doing these proper ID checks before giving somebody a job. So do you see the benefit there?
Well, the problem is they're not doing the checks, because checks already exist, don't they? I've had to show my passport when I've had a new job and it got recorded, and, the company I worked for did that properly. But obviously there must be some organisations out there not doing those checks. So why would they suddenly do a check with a digital ID? That's the bit I'm missing, right? If you're working cash in hand, or if you've got someone else who has the digital ID and they say they've got the job, but actually it's someone else doing the job, that kind of fraud can still exist if someone's doing it in the gig economy or cash in hand, for example. So I think the problem, as I see it, is probably more a kind of enforcement issue rather than a lack of ID to do the checks in the first place. So I'm not quite sure how it's different from the checks that already exist. I think the government really needs to make that case a bit better. What I can see is the arguments around how this could start to expand for more things. I can imagine the government going, actually, well, now you need it for these online age checks, or you need it to prove your age for buying alcohol, or you now need it to, pick up a parcel from the post office. So I think there's a realistic threat of what we'd call function creep, but I'm not yet convinced of the argument as to how it's actually going to tackle the problem it sets out to do.
OK, James, really good to have your view. That's James Baker, Platform Power and Free Expression Programme Manager at the Open Rights Group. Thanks.